scared money doesn't make money.
It doesn't, man. You know
And
what I mean?
I've seen people that like start like in the agency space, and they're so afraid of like talking to a client, making an offer, not sure if it's going to be good enough, and then they're just frozen.
Yeah.
Right. And that's scared money. Like there's no other way around it. Right.
Yeah, bro. I mean, the worst thing people can say is no, or go fuck yourself. But either way, you're gonna recover from that.
One of the two. It's 50-50, right? Just do your best to make it work. I remember you broke my brain on you had like a course area or something like that people could buy your soap opera sequences or something. And if you don't have that store, if you don't talk to your clients, if you don't try to go get a client, you literally are not making any progress.
Right.
But if you started that store, maybe you'll get 1 or 2 sales, right?
Exactly.
If you talk to a client, maybe you'll make them happy. At least you've got a shot.
Exactly.
Right? And I think that's how we'll start the interview off, with like how you got your first shot, because you and I have been like circling back and forth for like our 5th year now, starting like way back in the day. I remember, dude, that's like nuts, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I remember the first time you and I met, which was at like Dan Henry's event. And it was the first time you and I talked. I was like, I don't speak Spanish. What are these people saying about like that WhatsApp chat in my bike shop clients' WhatsApp or something, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, they're all like ripping him to shreds. I'm like, Oliver, stop doing that shit, right? But back in the day, right, you were doing insurance and chiropractor, and we don't have to go into that, but like, how did you migrate from Facebook ads as a product or service to saying, I'm going to go all in on copywriting? Like, what was that thought process like?
Yeah, 100%, bro. So, you know, as you mentioned, we got started around the same time. I think you got started like maybe 6 months before me with Facebook ads with Dan Henry's course. Because if you remember back in the day, you know, me and you hopped on like a Google, meeting or whatever.
Yeah.
And you helped me out on the back end, like setting up pixels for my clients and all this stuff. Because I was super new. I had just bought the course like 2 weeks before, and you helped me out. And so I got started with Dan Henry, and I started learning about marketing. Previous to that, I was like hopping around sales, trying to help my dad with his car dealership and all this stuff. And so I had like the background in sales. I had the background in being obsessed with like human psychology and stuff like that. So I kind of understood, you know, and I always loved writing. So I got into marketing because obviously I wanted to do, you know, I saw it as a good opportunity to start doing my own thing online and kind of like, you know, buy my freedom, you know, by putting in some hard work for a period of time.
Oh, sorry, go on.
Oh, no, go ahead. What was the question?
I was going to say, like, was there like a client or a process or something like that? Because you just finished doing a copywriting masterclass, right?
Yeah.
But did you do a copywriting masterclass? Is that what kickstarted your copywriting career? Like, what made you say, I can do that kind of thing?
For sure. So I did Dan Henry's course, and I started getting some clients. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I really sucked at like Facebook ads and stuff like that. But what I was good at, like I sucked at the targeting, but what I was good at was creating, you know, writing this stuff.
Yeah.
So, you know, from there I started sharing some posts on my social media, so I gained a little bit of traction. And then I joined a workshop that taught me how to write a sales letter. And the workshop was back in the day, Jason Hornung and Mitch Miller. So they got me my start with, you know, copywriting, opening my mind that way. And then Jason Hornung ended up becoming my client for like a year, which was cool. So it came back full circle. But, you know, I got my start there. And right after that, after I kind of learned some of the frameworks of copywriting, kind of, you know, headline and how to position stuff, I started writing my own story on social media because I realized that. Exactly. Remember, I was doing like stories because I realized that that's how people connect with you. And if people can feel like they can connect with you, then they'll trust you. And that bridges the gap between strangers more quickly.
Yeah.
So business, and it's funny, we'll get into what the business was, but some e-commerce business hit me up and said, hey, can I pay you $500 to do that for my company?
Whoa, hold on. You're writing stories on your personal page.
Yeah.
Employing the skills, and all of a sudden a client says, just practicing out in public.
Yeah.
Right. So kind of like how Gary Vee is like, you don't need permission to become an author. Just start writing.
You
just start writing.
Right.
Right.
I started selling myself with practicing my copywriting skills subconsciously. I wasn't ever doing those CTAs, but I was just telling my story in a way as though it would be like a mini sales letter about Danny Velez. And then, you know what I mean?
So then somebody reached out to you, and let me take a step back, because like from that $500 client, everything blew up, right?
Yeah.
But that $500 client's journey to you was probably like they would look at you up, and then they friend you on Facebook, and then they creep on you for like 3-4 hours. They come back, they go back. It's not like,
oh, comment on my stuff every now and then, and they'll be like, "Oh, awesome," or "I love your story."
Yeah.
And then after like 5 of those, after like a week or 2, she hit me up and she said, "Hey, I'm doing this and this with my business. Do you think I can pay you $500 to do that for my company?" And I said, "Well, hot damn, sure." You know what I mean? At the time, I didn't even like, I wasn't even really because I was still scared of saying, "Hey, I'm a copywriter," all of a sudden. But she gave me my first shot.
So it was. So when I did my Curious Student, I was worried about the social flack of that public declaration.
Yeah.
Right. Like the snakes in the grass. Like, what if it, like, and then everything would like rain down and fear and frustration. It wasn't like I didn't know what to do from a technical point of view.
Right.
It was what would happen if I told people I was doing it.
Right, dude. And that's an underrated fear that people don't really talk about. You know, when you're first starting out, you know, you have that fear of, damn, what are my friends and family going to think, that, you know, I'm some idiot trying to do this stuff online. I'm a fake. I'm a you know what I mean? So it's like that fear of putting yourself out there. But, you know, I'm glad I did that, and kind of just, you know, that's how I got my start. What's funny is that she paid me. I asked her to pay me by check rather than like, because my account was so overdrafted.
Yeah.
That 500 would have gotten eaten up, and I needed it to pay my rent that month.
I remember like your story is like the quintessential. I was going to get evicted. I got no money, right? All I got is like hard work and the brand that I got. And every single day you're making progress. I remember seeing you post all the books, like the King copywriting, the books you're supposed to read to start your journey. You had all of them. Right. And it was like every Dan Kennedy book you possibly imagine. I'm sure Psycho Cybernetics was in there.
I read that twice.
like all those highly discounted books that are highly influential to people's careers.
Right.
Like there's no school is saying read Psycho Cybernetics.
Right. You know what I mean? But the whole thing is that it has the principles there, you know, the psychological stuff. And at that time, all I was doing was reading and really investing into my mind. Because when you're a beginner, that's also an underrated thing, is, you know, people think I'm just going to gather the skills and go out and do it. But when you're at the very beginning, and even also, you know, when you're at a particular level where you're doing stuff still, but especially in the beginning, you know, you really do got to work on your fucking mind, man. And kind of just go out there and learn some shit.
It's the fixed mindset versus growth mindset.
Right.
But if you just tell somebody that, you're like, look it up, you don't really give credit to the emotional turbulence that led to that fixed mindset. Like there's a reason it exists.
Sure.
Right.
Yep.
You need brain breaking moments where you're like, wow, somebody likes my stuff.
Right.
You need somebody saying, I like it so much, I want to pay you $500. You're like, oh my God. And then all of a sudden your brain begins to move correctly.
Yeah.
For me, it was the Curious Student with my still friend. We've been best friends since like college, and he was my first client. Your first client was a $500 payment by check. Right? To somebody who's just been like creeping on your profile.
Yeah.
And ever since then, it's been moving up and up. And this is like the meat of the interview now, which is like VSLs, copywriting, and how you communicate is like one of the only infinitely scalable skill sets, right? Like you write once and everybody can read it. It's like a movie. That is different than Facebook ads, where you write a Facebook ad, then you have to check it, and then this, and you have to talk to a client. Like there's a cost of service.
Right.
But you write an email once, that goes forever.
For sure. Yep.
So like, talk to me about what happened after you got that first $500 client.
Yeah.
Like, was it all like rocket ship growth? Was there a next stage? Did everything go break and go to hell and come back? Like, what happened after you got that first client?
Yeah. So, you know, so after I got that first client, actually, as a side note, it's kind of inappropriate, but it's funny, is that first client was an online sex store. So they were selling like spiritual,
nice, man.
like rock crystal, like quartz dildos and shit. But
wait, rock crystals and dildos were your first copywriting client?
Yeah, man, spiritual dildos. But it was funny, man. But you know, I took You know, I did some research
Love it.
to say that, but yeah, it was cool, man. So after I got that client, I wrote, for her, and she was attracted. So the biggest key there for me was learning how to speak the language of, like, I was asking her, so who are we selling this to? Because my sales background, I knew that you had to sell to somebody, and you have to at least try and boil it down to one person. So, in the written form, you still have to apply those principles. So that was my biggest breakthrough right there was, she said, we're attracting these sort of people. So I started learning about the target market. From there, that helped me hone in on my own skills, and I just continued writing my story on social media.
Yeah.
And then I posted the story about my client because she gave me a testimonial, and that was nice. And then I just got more clients. Actually, my next client after that was Jeff J. Hunter, and he started paying me $25 per Facebook ad.
Nice.
Per Facebook ad copy, and he gave me he bought like a package of 5, and that was like 200, and I'm like, holy shit, I'm rich. And then he gave me a testimonial to work with Arnie Giske.
Nice.
And then Arnie started hiring me. I think he was paying me like $50 at this point then for like Facebook ads. And then Arnie connected me with you.
Yeah.
And you were my 4th client. Nice. And we did the soap opera sequence, and I was real ballsy, and I asked for $340.
Yeah.
And I felt awesome. I'm like, nice, man, $340 to write some emails, and we did it, man. And I mean, you can tell that story better than I can, because that went pretty smooth.
There is a testimonial I filmed for you calling you my dirty little secret, and I hope nobody finds out about you, because like the soap opera sequence was what powered. I mean, like philosophically, it's like people buy people's stories first, their products second, right? That's how this works. That's how the whole world works. People bought Steve Jobs' story first before they bought their back. End of discussion. Same way with Tesla and Mark Zuckerberg. Like all the top tier people have a story. Stories first, products second. And for our $8,000 to $10,000 a month bike shop, that's who was paying us. We had to create a story where people said, I want to purchase that story. I just happen to be getting a bike. Right. And so you're on the phone with this guy. And I think the 2 years speaking Spanish. So I'm like, I'm out of the loop. I'm like, Danny, have a good time. Right. And I think you took them through like the Big Who worksheet or something like that.
Exactly. Yep.
And pretty quickly we discovered his story.
Exactly.
Which was he fled from a country in South America, snuck into an MBA program in Spain, and then resettled in Miami to build a business that his father would be proud of. And that is like so many layers of deep in the heart stuff.
Oh, man.
The craziest part is that like people were going up to him saying, I read your story. And that made it very, very easy for somebody to spend money. They are investing in the right person, the right place, the right time. It just happens to be the product, which is a bike.
Right.
And we did the same thing for the car wash. We did the same thing for the chiropractor through the board. Right.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to where you mentioned you got paid to write Facebook ads. Because after a while, like after you do a thing enough times, you find the pattern. Yeah. Right. And one of the bullet points here is like your 4-step process for writing Facebook ads that convert like crazy. Right. Yeah. And I've got like my 6-step process, which is like attention getting, scarcity, Dan Kennedy style, where like, here's the offer, right? Solving the McDonald's problem, things like that. But you have something I think might be slightly different. So like, how are you writing Facebook ads and make people say, I want to buy that right now? What does that look like for you?
Yeah. So if you guys are cool with it, if you're cool with it, bro, I can actually go through I'll just read through a Facebook ad, and then I'll break it down that I'm, that we've done for a client that did really well. Nice. So basically what we do, and there's a lot of different mechanisms that I use, but I usually start with this one, and you guys can look at the overall flow of it. And actually I adopted this particular, way of writing Facebook ads from a guy called Joel Irway, who's, he's super successful and stuff like that.
I met him at Rob Quinn's event in Kansas City, and I was like, holy shit, that's the guy. Like, that's the guy that taught like the world how to webinar. And I was honestly like, I was a little bit of starstruck, like, oh my God, that's him. He's a normal dude. He's super awesome. But I was like, cool. I was like, holy shit, that's him.
No, for sure. Now, he basically made webinars mainstream, and more than that, mini webinars is, which is his niche, are, that's where I make my bread and butter now with VSS basically. Yep. So the way that I learned to write Facebook ads from him, he calls it his power offer. But basically, I'll read through this particular ad, and we'll look at and we'll try and break down the overall theme to it. So the first line, which captures attention, is if I we're going direct, is basically direct marketing.
Yeah.
So if I offered to increase your client's lifetime value to 21,000, and then bullet points with a few simple and fast tweaks in parentheses 17 days, without you doing any extra work in parentheses. In fact, we'll show you how to remove yourself from 75% of the equation. So you can take your agency to high 6 and then 7 figures like we have. Would you take me up on that offer? You know, so you're literally asking, you know, you're literally calling out an ideal client by saying, agency owners, if I offered to increase your client's lifetime value, right? So we're calling out to a specific type of agency owner who understands the value of having clients for an extended period of time. Then after all of that, we say my company received this award, and we showed it to Comma Club. Since then, we've helped over 500 students. So then there's proof. Are you next? That's the invitation. And it's not a hardcore invitation. It's more of a, hey, if this called to you, we're not going to try and hunt you down. You know, we're not going to try and hound you. You know, what choice to make, basically. So it's kind of an authoritative, you know, just putting the ball in their court sort of thing. So that's a Facebook ad flow that I've kind of adopted for my client, and that's always the first one that we go to because it's so simple, it's direct, and that way you can see if your offer is relevant in the market right away before you start getting too fancy with copy, before you get too invested into telling 10 million fucking stories, you know, and because those could be endless, and those type of ads get they need to be refreshed a lot. But if you can find out very quickly with that sort of flow that your offer actually hits in the marketplace, you know, then you know you have something good. And you don't have to spend that much time on the Facebook ad after that because the market wants the offer.
So that means the thing that you're doing is putting your sellable thing out in front. You're saying, here's the bike, here's the car wash, here's what we're doing in exchange for money, here's the t-shirt, do you want it or not? And that's what I'm hearing is that like that's a very, very easy way of testing if your product or service is actually wanted in the marketplace, and compare that to like trying to argue about cost per click or percentage of brand views or building an invisible list. You're like, let's get cash in the door, see if people want to buy this, and then work that process out later. Is that correct?
Right. You know, and so and that's exactly right, bro. You want, we try and like front load our ads at the beginning with the offer. So just once again, it's agency owners, if I offer to increase your client's lifetime value to 21,000. So that's automatically putting the unique benefit of the product. So I would say, instead of going first and foremost with the product, first and foremost with the unique benefit that product, so you don't want to ignore the product, but obviously people want to know what's in it for them. So instead of, the bike, would you like to increase, your speed by X, or would you like to, limit fatigue by 57%, whatever it is that the particular product is to help people with first and foremost, that's what you want to lead with. Is what I've seen, kind of just works the fastest and the best.
So with power offers, that applies not just to selling to an agency, but also on behalf of a client selling to an end customer. So if I was like a agency owner for a chiropractor, I could do a power offer for them. Like if I offered to help you solve back pain once and for all with a 6-week program that helped you blank, blank, and blank without surgery. Interesting.
Okay. Or HVAC, or I know the other day you were talking about like, was it like pipe cleaners or gutter repair or something like that?
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like literally any niche, you could literally do that part. And I promise you, man, as you know, because, you do a lot of work with local businesses, when you take just a little bit of the direct marketing stuff and apply it to a local business, it's so much fucking easier than applying it to a business opportunity where the market is ripe. I mean, the market is overdone with direct marketing, so you have to be really fucking good. When you're just starting out, if you start doing some of this stuff for a local business, you'll look like a god if you just do one or two of these things.
We are currently using a derivative of the power offer idea for our blood plasma clinic center, right?
Nice.
They've gotten 75 phone calls in about 2.5 weeks.
Wow.
Right? Because the power offers are, if I offered to blank, right?
Exactly.
We're doing a derivative of that. And they've tried like other advertising agencies in the past that like brand and blah, blah, blah.
They try and get cute with stuff. And
it's
you're not Starbucks, buddy. Stop trying to brand. You know what I mean? People need to know your shit first.
I love that so much. You're not Starbucks. Stop trying to fucking brand. Right.
Yeah, dude. Like, what are you? You know what I mean? You're not American Airlines, bro. People don't really give a fuck about you just yet that much.
Yeah.
Put an offer in front of people and solve a problem. And then by default, you create a brand. But, you know, in the beginning, you know, don't try and get too cute with, you know, your overarching goal and stuff like that. Just literally serve the market. That's it.
The easiest way to build a great reputation and a great brand is to sell a thing that people love.
Right.
And you can't have a brand without selling a thing. You don't have infinite money.
Exactly.
Right? You have to have that business aspect to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that means that if I'm an agency owner looking to get a leg up, a one up, or have some type of competitive edge with my clients and getting them to sell more of their stuff, I could take that Joel Urway power offer idea and adapt it to my clients. And now their bestseller looks amazing. Now they don't have to change anything what they're doing. Now all they're doing is simply getting more people calling saying, I saw the ad, I'm interested. Is that correct?
Exactly. And because you're not trying to get too cute in the ad and try to, you know, play mind games with people to try and, you know, coax them into signing up or becoming a lead. They called with the intent purpose of understanding more about a specific offer. So you have people who are more likely to convert, you know, because you were upfront with them and honest.
Right. The yield is through the roof.
Exactly.
Interesting. So is that fundamentally different than writing emails that generate sales? Because like Facebook ads out in front, direct offer, right? Is that different than saying, oh, your emails have to have a soap opera sequence? Is it a Seinfeld sequence? Is it a direct power offer sequence? Like what's it? How do we write emails so that people buy? Like attention, humor, scarcity? Like what does that look like for you?
Yeah. So, you know, there's different types of email sequences. Depending on the market, depending on how, you know, depending if the offer is high ticket, that's when I decide whether or not I want to do a soap opera these days. So I don't do a soap opera for everybody, but for example, if a product is an $8,000 bike, I'm still going to do a soap opera because that you got to bridge that gap between somebody saying I'm going to spend 8,000 or I'm going to go, you know, spend a couple hundred on something else.
$249 for the bike down the street. Yeah.
You know, get on Amazon and buy something for 150 and get it sent over to me in a day. You know, so, you know, depending if the product is high ticket, then I decide, okay, you know what, these people need more trust before they come and visit or before they get on that phone call or even schedule that phone call. So I'm going to tell their story, you know, in a brief manner. One thing that's key to understand is that when you're telling a client's story, you know, if you can find a way, and there's always a way to do it. You know, what I like to do is I like to kind of tell the market's story, so the prospect story, disguised within also the client's story. So, you know, that's just one thing to kind of keep in mind. You know what I mean? Like you're telling your client story, but you also kind of want to tell the prospect story. That way they can relate and see themselves vicariously through that story. And that's how they feel like, hey, I know this guy. He's like me.
So that means like you can't just be a personal trainer that's been ripped his whole life.
Right.
That's not a story fat people will buy.
Nah, and they're not going to appreciate, or a skinny kid that wants to become ripped. You know what I mean? He's going to, I don't really relate to it. He doesn't understand my troubles.
Yeah. So that means that a good copywriter has to understand the client's goals as well as the end customer's goals.
Right.
Right. So are you doing like any like customer research, client research? Like how do you discover what those end customers' goals, needs, wants, fears, all that fun stuff? What does that look like?
Yeah, so these days it's a little bit different. You know, we still do some of the surveys and stuff like that. But one of the things that I found that's really beneficial, especially for people who are just beginning to understand how to do research, you know, is write down 10 solid competitors in the marketplace that you're trying to get into. So let's say, for example, you know, let's say, for example, you're a chiropractor or whatever the case, you know, find 10 people in your arena who are killing it with Facebook ads and study their marketing. Because if they're killing it with, you know, with marketing, that means, what does that mean? That means they already did a lot of research. That means they probably spent a couple $100,000 testing offers in the marketplace. And so by seeing what 10 or 20, or if you want to get crazy, 30, if you can find them, solid, like successful competitors are doing, you'll start seeing themes. You'll start seeing what sort of offers matter in the marketplace, what sort of things people like. And then the other thing I like to do is look for complementary fields. So if you're a chiropractor, then I would look for 10 or 20 dentists or 10 or 20 physical trainers or physiologists and look at what they're doing and try and see if there's an innovation in that field that I can mimic for my field and bring it over and see if they're doing something completely different that for some reason my market is kind of tunnel vision towards and they just don't know it exists yet, and bring something new and try and see if I can make a just bring an offer that's fresh and appealing based on all that knowledge. And that gives you a really good foundation, man, because you're basically hacking other people's research. And then obviously you do your own stuff too to supplement that, but that really takes you like 75% of the way there a lot of times.
So that means that if I am approaching, say, a dentist,
sure,
and I want to write emails that make my dentist's future patients go like, oh my God, I love this dentist, I want to buy their stuff like that. That means I just can't be like, yo, buy my dentist stuff. You can't just send emails like that. Ain't going to happen.
Right.
What I need to do is create a story about this dentist similar to that end patient's story.
Right.
And I could study the dentists that are out in town, out and about, the best competition, things like that, but also be studying maybe like that HVAC guy has a really cool story too.
Right.
Maybe.
Or they have a really cool risk-free offer or some sort of, that for some reason, hey, you know what? I think this would work in the dental field if I adapted in some way, but I don't see any other dentists doing it. And then you sit down with your client, you're like, hey, what do you think about this? What if we, and then boom, now you have something fresh.
That's very J. Abraham knowledge transfer, industry transfer, right?
Exactly.
And that's why consultants, and when I say consultants, I don't mean us. I mean like Bain, Boston Consulting, McKinsey, like $1 billion a month companies. That's 90% of what they do. This is working for Ford. Why don't we try to bring it to Apple? This is working for Microsoft. Let's try it at General Electric, right? Like that knowledge transfer works. And most of my clients, when I end up having an improvement into their business, it's not from that industry.
Exactly.
It's from a complementary industry. So like when I'm talking like pest control businesses, they know more about pest control than I'm ever going to, there's no advantage. Like, oh, can I out pest control your knowledge? It ain't going to happen. Right.
Yeah.
But if I go to them and be like, actually, it's so interesting because down the street, there's a car wash getting 30 people a day buying their monthly recurring with these 3 or 4 headlines. How can we adapt that to your business? That's where my pest control client goes like, oh my God.
Right. This guy has knowledge beyond what I can, beyond what I have the capacity to know right now.
Yeah.
Like that's when, that's when you kind of, that's when you position yourself above, more than just, a service monkey, and you become, a trusted advisor in their corner who has knowledge that they, would like to someday attain also.
So that's why things like swipe files and competitor research are so massively valued.
Right.
Because I have a swipe file. It's just a Google Drive. And every time I see a good ad, I don't care the industry. I take a screenshot and drop it in there.
Same, bro. I have like a saved folder in my Facebook where if I see a really good ad, I'm like, well, that's going in there. Or I screenshot it and put it like I have a marketing tips and swipes folder on my desktop. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter if it's fucking Victoria's Secret or you know what I mean? Like literally, if it's good, it's going in there, man. Because there's something there that works.
So does that mean if I want to go ahead and write an email sequence that makes people want to buy my client's stuff, that I should be signing up for email sequences and experiencing them as well? Is that correct?
Sure. You should do it from, try and find a lot of different fields, but companies that are killing it with direct marketing. So don't just sign up for, like if you get a couple of their emails and it's just branding type of emails with just bullshit, and this is not a knock on branding because branding is very deep.
I love the face you're making, which is like branding is so inapplicable to our journey. Like it's not worth even having a discussion about. Absolutely.
Right. They're just sending emails with logos and 15%, like just bullshit like that. Unsubscribe because you're not really going to get anything out of it. Try and find companies that are invested in direct marketing. Like, if they're doing like really good video Facebook ads, it's most likely that they are doing direct marketing. So sign up for their email sequences. Get a burner email so that you don't have all these fucking emails in your personal one or business one, and just use that one to once a week go through the emails and see if you find anything interesting.
So that's how somebody can start their copywriting journey.
Right.
And honestly, you tell me if I'm wrong here. Starting is not hard, but having the testicular fortitude to start is hard. Is that correct?
I would say so, man. I think that, the toughest part, one analogy is, and it's corny, but it's cool, is that, it takes, so for example, like, but it's relevant because right now Jeff Bezos and fucking Richard Branson are trying to get out of, into space and stuff. That spaceship spends 90% of its energy trying to get out of the Earth's atmosphere. And, the other 10% that it's going to use, or the fuel, is, it uses only 10% of that much to get to the fucking moon, which is 2 million miles away. So, getting that start is always the toughest, man, because you have all these doubts. You're thinking, am I good enough? Or, I've historically failed in the past. I'm such a disappointment. Am I going to do it again? Yeah, probably. But you can always continue and switch. And you know what I mean? Like, that's just how it is, So getting started is easy.
Yeah.
Actually putting that first foot forward is, we get in our ways a lot and kind of hold ourselves back.
I always find it so interesting how people accidentally set themselves up for failure, right? Like, I'm going to put my toe in the water. It didn't work. Well, you got to dive in. I've dived in before. It hasn't worked. Cool. It's not going to work again. You want to try again anyway, right?
Yeah.
And what I've discovered is that most transformations will take anywhere between 6 and 12 months, like complete total transformations from like freshman to sophomore to junior, senior. It'll take 6 to 12 months at a minimum.
Yeah.
And it's the same way with like our bodies and working out. Like, if you go to the gym twice, all you're going to feel is pain and no pleasure, right? Mm-hmm. If all you do is copyright for 2 weeks, you're not going to get your intended results. You got to like do a lot over the course of time. And then you start pumping out $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a day in retainers. And you're like, wow, this was so easy. And you forget how hard it was in the beginning.
Right. And another thing that's interesting is sometimes there's such thing as like beginner's luck. So you kind of get like that, you kind of get like a real, like you go to the gym for the first day and now your veins are popping out and you're like, oh, that's awesome. But then you go to the gym, for 2 weeks straight and nothing really changes, so, but you got hyped up on that beginner's luck and you kind of slacked off maybe, or whatever the case was. So even when you start seeing wins in the beginning, understand that times can change pretty quickly. So just be willing to continue that same enthusiasm for a while. Don't just get hyped up on quickness and just understand that it's a marathon, bro. Just keep doing the same thing and you're going to get to where you want to get to.
Now, in my experience with like agency and getting clients interested in buying my services, that's like a whole sales process, right? And the vast majority of people, including myself, don't have the biggest network. Naturally, people text messaging me every single day saying, I want to buy your stuff. Let's go. Send me an invoice. It just doesn't happen, right?
Right.
So what you have to do is you have to like run ads, right? And it goes ad. And then the next step is they talk to me on the phone and bought my stuff, right? Mm-hmm. That's usually how it goes. It could be as simple as like add to Calendly or add and an overview video. And then they sign up in Calendly, right? Something like that. But what you've ended up doing is you did work for another agency. Right. And you had that middle step. You had like the ad and then you had the phone call, but there was this middle step, which is like landing pages, right? Or sales pages, something like that. And your sales letter generated, what is it? Like 1.35 million, 5.3, a huge chunk of change.
Exactly.
Right. And it was consistent. It was reliable. It was predictable. It was like literally factor of like dollars in, dollars out. That's it. Buying a thing for $1, which was traffic, selling a thing for $2, which was the service, and everything worked. Right.
Yeah.
Now I've tried sales letters. They are difficult for me. They are massively rewarding. And how did you create your client's sales letter that pumped out cash day after day after day after day?
Right. So, excuse me. So what we did, this particular client, just to give you a background on the client, was, they were at around $30,000 a month and they were stuck at that level. It's not a terrible place to be stuck at, but they wanted to hit $1 million, recurring a year. And they had an agency and they were doing chiropractic marketing and stuff like that, like probably many of the viewers. And, so they were at that particular level. They tried a bunch of stuff to try and do it on their own. So he finally hit me up because he had been following me on Facebook. He liked some of the stuff I posted and we connected and we were friends. Yep. And on that level, at least at the time. So he hit me up and he said, hey, I want to learn more about what you're doing. So what I set him up with was we did, we wrote some ads. We took them to an opt-in page. which opted them into, on the opt-in page, they didn't get some sort of a lead magnet. The opt-in was purely to opt in to learn more about the offer. So like that was a big transition that we, because we didn't want people to come in, at least not for the services, maybe for like courses that does work very well, but for his services, what we wanted to do was bring in people who were already hungry to learn about the offer.
Yeah.
And so we made them opt in to learn about the offer, and then a sales letter, which was about 7,500 words, this Mondo fucking almost short novel, and really just indoctrinating people on who he is, why they need to trust him, their story / vicariously the prospect story also.
Yep.
And from there, very quickly, he started getting more and more clients. He ended up getting like 45 clients from that, and he went from 30,000 a month to 115,000 a month.
Nice.
And over the course of 2 years, he did not change a single word, a single headline, a single offer. It's very hard in the copywriting world to have a control for 2 years.
Yeah.
It generated over $1.35 million.
That's some like Agora level crap right there. Like it just works, never touch it, just pumps out cash day after day after day.
Right.
So when you were creating this sales letter, what was like your thought process? Is there like a framework and a format? Is it like bold, attention getting headline at the top, credibility, and then give me money? Like what is, because it's not just words, right? They're built in a way like a movie that makes sense. So like, what does that look like?
Well, first and foremost, coming into it, my thought process was, holy fuck, this client just paid me $7,500. I better.
Okay, wait. Look, Danny Velez 3 years ago was happy with like $370, and now you're getting checks for $7,500.
Yeah, now that same exact package is $12,500 or $5,000 down, and we do 7.5% of top line revenue.
Love it.
So basically, that was my first thought was, well, I fucking better get serious about this, and so anyways, basically the framework that I want to get into with the readers, with the viewers, and if you guys are taking notes, unless you want to watch the replay, but this is it right here. This is like yesterday night I was sitting in my bed in the hotel, and I'm like, let me look at exactly what this framework is so I could give it to people and they can write, like literally use that exact framework and write it down. So the first thing we did was the headline. Obviously, the headline is very important. And in the headline, the way you want to write a headline is you want to front stack the headline with the foremost benefit. So you don't want to start off with a bunch of extra bullshit like, how would you like to blah, blah, you know what I mean? You want to start out with the benefit. So the way that we wrote this headline was, we guarantee 70 new patients this month, ... So that was the front stacking of the core benefit. Yeah. 2 years ago, that was a unique offer. Most people were offering, bring in 10 to 15 patients, or whatever the case was. With him, we looked at all his clients, which at the time he had like 28 clients. And we looked at the average amount of leads that he was getting per month. And it was 70 per client. So we said, well, let's guarantee that because that's the average. That means you can most likely do that. And then the rest of the headline was, or we'll refund you every penny plus send you a $1,500 check in the mail. Yep. So that was the headline. You want to think of a headline in those terms. You want to put the benefit there, and then you either want to, what's unique about this offer was, well, we're going to refund you everything if we can't deliver. Most people had fears about refunding with agencies back in the day. A lot of people still do. But if you can guarantee a minimum viable result for your client, there shouldn't be any fear with that. So the next thing we did was it's called the lead or the hook. But for this, for the purpose of non-copywriters out there, I'm just going to call it questions. So we lead in with a series of questions that first start off with a negative appeal where it's, are you sick and tired of blank, blank, blank? Are you pulling your hair out, wondering how to do this? So we do about 3 or 4 negative questions, and then we hit them with 3 or 4 positive questions. How would you like to never have to worry about this? What would it look like if you can achieve this in X amount of days? Would you like to make a lot more money? So we start then. So that's the questions. After the headline, it's the questions. Then we start with the story.
Mm.
So after the questions, we say, then pay attention to every word in this letter, because I'm about to reveal to you how we do this for these clients in this amount of time and how you can do it too. Let me explain. And then after that, we hit them with his story slash, keep in mind, vicariously also the prospect story. People didn't sign up to read a fucking Stephen King novel. They read to learn about how you can help them. So if you're going to tell a story, don't waste their time. Also make it relevant to them. After that, after we tell the story is the lead up to the aha moment, which is the unique mechanism.
Mm.
How is it that your story led you to discovering this big thing that now helps people? After that, you want to address and throw stones at the marketplace. The reason why we started doing things this way is because we realized that everything was so fucked up everywhere else, and people are doing it this way, but really it doesn't work, or whatever. You want to discredit the marketplace to position yourself higher, because most of these people have tried the other things in the marketplace, but it never worked for them. That's why they're still searching. So it doesn't mean that the other stuff in the marketplace is irrelevant, because it works for certain people, but obviously it didn't work for them, or they wouldn't be on your page.
Does that tie into the whole thing of like, don't be better, be different?
Yeah, I would say, be different. To be honest, man, listen, there's a million agencies, and I guarantee you every one of them could get clients for people. But, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it doesn't work there's a million copywriters, you know what I mean? But people go, sometimes I could get results for people that other people can't get. You know what I mean? So it just depends, So yeah, I would say it goes with the whole be different. Don't be better. There's just something out there for everybody. So after you address what's wrong in the marketplace, you want to reinforce what's unique in what's your unique benefit.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, you present the offer, and you kind of, hey, now that you know all this stuff, here's this, here's why you need to do it. Here's how much it is. Here's the guarantee. Here's blah, blah, blah. After that, you show a bunch of proof. You really want to show proof throughout, but right after you have the offer and you ask them for the money, that's really the time for, here's the testimonials. Here's people that actually did this, and this is why you should trust this too. After that, you hit them with the close. Hey, this is limited time only. It's open only to 30 people, or I'm closing this at the end of the month. And then you close, with a PS, just to reiterate everything with a final call to action. So when I broke down that sales letter, that's exactly how it worked. That's exactly the flow. And if you follow that, I guarantee you have a solid skeleton for writing your copy.
So that means that there are agencies out there that are putting $500, $1,000, or even $2,000 a day into advertisement. And they're pushing those people to a sales call, or pushing them to a next step, or get on my email list.
Right.
But now they're dealing with people who are like kind of not interested. I don't really know. They don't show up to the call. It's like all this space. But if they had this sales letter in the middle, not only is it filtering better, but it's also getting people off the fence and saying, okay, now I'm committed.
Right.
And that means on the sales call, you're no longer trying to sell. You're just trying to push them over the edge, which is a much easier sales call and much happier clients.
Exactly. One interesting thing that we do also, which helps supplement that, is when they click that, that page to sign up, where they're taken to an application page. On the application page, we then have, just a short little case study, usually, where it's like 5 minutes, and it's, hey, you signed up, you clicked, you're interested, here's kind of how the sales call is going to work. Here's why we do it this way. Here's, it's not a sales pitch in disguise, and this is the people who got results sometimes right after the sales call. And this is actually how we were able to help them once they became clients. So you kind of want to sell them further on just taking that action. It's just about prodding people, in the right way, respectfully, towards your offer.
And now you have like this whole system that we talked about. Now you have a power offer out in front, where it's like, it's a yes or no. I'm not trying to like do lead gen.
I'm not connive you into thinking you should sign up for this.
Right. It's just, this is the thing. Do you want it? Yes or no? If you do, you're going to read through this sales letter. You're going to go to a sales call, which is not really in the copywriter's control, but you've got the automatic follow-up of emails. So this future client has seen an ad of the power offer that they want, knows the story of the person selling them the thing, is now on the phone with somebody selling them a thing and gets a series of emails where they're reinvesting the story, the why, the results, things like that.
And then the retargeting ads, they're stupid simple. I don't spend a lot of time on retargeting ads. I write one sentence.
Yep.
And I let the because we get like the video testimonials, and I let the testimonials by the click.
Yep.
So that's I mean, usually we're doing like 10 retargeting videos to just on a loop, and those by the click for super cheap, just to restate everything. And that way everywhere they go, they're seeing, how it works, the whole ecosystem thing, man.
And those retargeting is going back to the sales letter. Is that correct?
Right. So people, based on the actions that they did or didn't take, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's going back. Oh no, it's going to the application page. Sorry.
Application page. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the application page is separate. And the application page restates the benefits that were in the sales letter with the little mini video that, which is kind of like a little case study, and then sign up with some questions that the client has to answer. So it's like a long form lead.
Yeah.
And then boom.
So it goes add with power offer, sales letter.
Add to power offer to opt in, because if we went straight sales letter, our ad accounts would probably get shut down.
Probably. Okay, gotcha. So opt in, sales letter, then application page, then sales call.
Right.
There's enough steps in there, and there's enough click investment in there and scroll investment to where like only people who are like really, really interested are getting on the phone. Is that correct?
Exactly. Seeing a high percentage of people who are very interested, and if they're not interested, because they know, like, and trust you, they know somebody who can be. So it's easier to get a referral from them. So if somebody says no, one thing that we're training our clients on doing is, with your sales team, because usually a lot of these clients, they don't have like, hardcore closers doing their phones. They just have, maybe like a little VA that they trained up to do just a good enough job.
Yep.
So we're having them say, hey, if the client doesn't close, offer them a low ticket offer. And if they even say no to that, or even if they do say yes to it, say, hey, I know this is not for you at the moment, but do you know 2 or 3 people who you can put us in touch with who may benefit from this?
Love it.
Yeah. And let's say, for example, only about 20% of people are going to give you 2 or 3 names, but that's better than 0% of people giving you nothing. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's a little bit better that way.
What I really like about asking clients for referrals, whether they buy or they don't, 2 things that happen. The first is that you've tripled your costs you've tripled your results. Right. Like very, very quickly. And that is a very easy way of automatically following up with that lead. Like, hey, I talked to Alex. He's coming on board. We gave him a great rate. I'll let you know how the campaign is doing in 2 weeks. Gets a screenshot and send them results directly to their phone. And it's only a matter of time before they come on board. Like that process is massively powerful.
Yes, it is. And a lot of people sleep on it, and I've slept on it in the past, and now one of the things I'm doing for my own services is doing the same thing with my own clients, where it's like, hey, we just made you a bunch of money. Who do you know, 2 or 3 names you can lead me to that, may be interested in something and doing something similar, and what you'll find is, especially if you're making people money, they're gonna feel like they need to put you in front of more people.
And then they get all sorts of Danny dollars.
Exactly. That's one thing I got going on.
Love it. Yeah. Ladies and gents, for everybody watching, there's 2 things coming up. The first, if you have any specific questions for Danny, now is the time to ask. Danny Velez charges an F ton of money and carved time out of his schedule just for this conversation. So if there's any questions that you have, put them in the chat. We're going to address them directly. That's number 1. Number 2 is I've convinced Danny Velez to squeeze a 15-minute one-on-one session with 3 lucky people, either individual or group call. So if you're interested in that, just hashtag Velez my face, VELEZ my face. I'll pick 3 random people, introduce you, and he'll make sure you're taken care of and things along those lines. So number 1, if you've got any questions, drop them in. Number 2, if you'd like to be entered for a chance to win a one-on-one session with Danny, just hashtag Velez my face, and then we'll see what happens. So let's go through the comments and see if there's any specific questions. And let's see. Robert says, no nonsense gold. Much appreciated. Anthony Huffman says, yay, my 2 favorite OGs, which is cool. Somebody says, Danny Velez copywriting masterclass. It's in the air, depending. We'll see what happens, how this interview goes and things like that. And there's a bunch of people hashtagging Velez my face, which is always a pleasure. My question for you, Danny, is if I have a client, let's just say it's just Facebook ads. We don't have that copywriting relationship, right?
Sure.
They don't view me as a copywriter, but I want to like build up copywriting skills.
Sure.
How could I approach that client? Should I just offer to do a free trial? Should I say, hey, I wrote some stuff, I want to do this for you? Like, how do I kickstart a copywriting experience I could get my clients better results?
Yeah. So, and this question is coming from the position of like a Facebook agency that is not yet a copywriter but wants to get into that field, or somebody
Correct.
who doesn't do anything yet and wants to become a copywriter.
Somebody that's like experienced with Facebook
Okay.
ads. So somebody like me without the copywriting background.
Sure.
Yeah.
So what I would do is I would probably find. So what I would do, and I would find like maybe some sort of sales messaging that the client has, maybe on their website or something like that, and rewrite it with the principles that I know or am learning about direct response. And what I would look for is your best bang for the buck stuff is probably going to be, either their about me, because usually the about me leads to that's the story. So people are going to get to trust you. It's going to lead to the call. Usually whenever I build about me's, I have a call to action where it's a button at the end.
Yeah.
And it says book a call with us. And then it takes you to the contact page. And then I would also rewrite the contact page.
Nice.
Because if this client is not yet into the direct marketing field, they probably just have a website with some words on it. So I would just, try and make their website a little bit more direct responsive, and maybe fix the headline on the website, like the headline at the beginning of the website, have it lead to the about me, have the about me be really cool and tell their story, lead to the contact page. So it kind of just build like a funnel inside their website that way. And you can kind of just start testing out your own direct responsibility, because if you can get people from the homepage to the about me, to the contact, to a call, then okay, well, I'm starting to learn this stuff.
Then it works. So that means if my client has an about me that just says where they went to school and how long they've been in business, that's not really
talking about me's.
Yeah, that's not really what we're going for.
Right. So and so has been in the field, like it sounds corny. So just write like a story in a direct response way that tells who the client is, how they've been able, how they've been able to help people, the amount of people they've helped. You could even drop some testimonials on there, and then just put an offer on the about me page. I never not put an offer on the about me page at the very end. If you're interested in learning more, if you're interested in or discover more about this and get 50% off, whatever, you always want to put an offer in the about me page at the very end and then a button.
So I could go to my dentist client and be like, hey, Dr. Johnson, I've rewritten your about me page because I believe that we've got people looking at your about me's that could turn into a future patient. So I've written this out for you, and I've created an offer and a value stack, like a mini power offer. So if somebody does get invested into your story, we could get them scheduling directly on your calendar for a paid consulting session.
Exactly.
Are you interested in that? And all of a sudden, like if they say no, okay, what do I lose? Nothing, going back to the beginning of the interview. But if they said yes, I've got my first start. Is that correct?
Right. Yep. And honestly, I would just write it before. I would, it's better to ask for forgiveness sometimes than to fucking ask for permission. I would just write it and be like, hey, I wrote this up. What do you think we tested on your website? You know what I mean? That way you literally, even if they say no, you at least wrote it. Yeah. And you're testing your chops rather than waiting for somebody to give you a shot before you even take it. Yeah. So if they say no, like we said in the beginning, the worst thing that can happen is somebody says no or go fuck yourself. And either of them are not that bad.
I like that. Neither of them are really that bad. Like I've had most recently, one of our clients, like he sent me a message saying, I spent $5,000, no ROI, you're the worst service ever. Okay, fine. Mr. Johnson, look, I've got 15 phone calls. All right. You didn't pick up a single one of them. He told me, well, if they were really qualified, they would call back. He told me, like, well, what if they didn't want it? He told me, he gave me all the reasons for it. And my response to him was like, well, what do you got to lose by picking up the phone? Like, let's say somebody calls and says it's too expensive. What did you lose, buddy? You didn't lose anything.
Right.
And I feel like that happens a lot with agency owners as well. Like we're so afraid of somebody saying no, like it's going to end the world. We're so afraid of like, what if somebody rejects me and my idea, and all of a sudden I'm back to square one again. And that's never the case, right? Like even if you got a rejection, you still built up the ability to ask a question.
Yeah.
If you wrote it out and it was bad, you still built up the ability to write the stuff.
Right. Even if you don't get a no, you get a yes, but it ends up as a big failure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you handle that the right way, it doesn't end up as a big failure. Because I've had a client in the past where we did some copy and it ended up as a huge failure.
Yep.
I mean, I'm talking about monstrous failure. I
Yep.
refunded them, and then I sent them some fucking chocolates and some like biscottis, and I said, hey, I really
My
apologize.
bad.
I apologize for wasting your time. I just wasn't able to, and blah blah blah. And bro, they ended up like a year and a half later after, they ended up like referring me to somebody.
Yep.
Because they said, hey, I appreciate how, professional you were, and I understand that you can't make it work for everybody, but
Yep.
I think that you can make it work for this person. So even if, don't be afraid to still even, get a yes and fail.
So that's like the most fun part about this whole journey. Even if you get a yes and you bomb it, you can still make somebody whole, right? You can, and this is a question coming up. Like, what if we have good enough copywriting skills?
Right.
We don't have a huge portfolio of case studies. Could we just offer like, hey, can I do this for you? And if you hate it, I'll refund you.
Sure.
That's totally acceptable, right?
Yep. Or you can do the opposite. Do it for them and say, hey, only if you get 3 patients in through the door, based from this, then you pay me an agreed upon amount, and you can even do it that way, and sometimes if you do it that way, you can even since it's a risk-free offer to the client, sometimes you can get paid more that way, rather than making them fork over, let's say, for example, $500 on without seeing any results yet. But you can say, hey, and if you get 3 patients in through the door, then pay me $1,500. You know what I mean?
So that means I can go to everyone in my social circle and be like, hey, I'm learning how to do copywriting. I want to write you a series of emails that will get you qualified people that want to buy what you have to sell. Only pay me after you get cash collected. Are you interested? Yes or no?
Boom.
So now we've got an offer that is like, anybody can fucking do that right now.
Anybody.
Right?
And bro, I promise you, most people will be down to do that. And if you want to be even more bossy, I still do this to this day, bro. The other day, actually, I wrote a couple new opt-in pages, because what I like to do is whenever I see ads on Facebook from people who are doing, serious shit, I literally will sometimes rewrite their opt-in page and I'll send it over to them and say, hey, send this, or I'll find their ad person and I'll say, hey, test this out for so-and-so and let me know how it goes. And I got 2 calls this week from referrals from somebody I did that for. They're still testing out the copy, and like I said, you don't have to even ask. You literally say, hey, I did this for you. Test it out. If it makes more money, let's talk. If it doesn't, and this is my guarantee when I send it to people, if it doesn't, I'll send you 3 Padron cigars for wasting your time. Or you know what I mean?
Yeah. So that means the most that happens is somebody pays you and says, wow, Daniel Velez's copy is amazing, right? Which is what people want, right? Most people are really afraid that the risk and the downside. That's really where the frustration and the brain trash comes in. They want this, they're afraid of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what you're doing is you're saying, look, if you hate it, I'll send you some stuff.
Right.
And how much is that? What, like $75, $100?
Yeah. So the Padron cigars are $26 a stick, the 1926 one. So that's like, that's like $76 or whatever. Most people though, even if it does not do that well, they're gonna appreciate it and they're gonna end up on good terms with you, and they might refer somebody to you. And you know what I mean? So the whole point is you really don't have anything to lose, because you're starting off on a foot with goodwill.
Yeah.
You're starting off with giving value before you even ask for anything in return, even before saying hi.
Here's like the most interesting part. Like, if you're in the business of advertising at clients, you got to pay some amount of money to get a client, right? So if it's like $5,000, you're going to have to pay somebody $2,000. Just accept it, right? Between sales costs and advertising costs, walk away with 60% margins, are going to have a good time.
Yeah.
If you're trying to get $1,000 client, you got to give $200. Just accept it, right? What I heard from you is that you could get a client and the most it would cost you is $76. Right?
Roundabout, man. And that's sometimes you don't even have to do that, because if you end up getting them, I mean, I end up sending them the cigars once they become clients, though, as a thank you gift. So yeah, let's say, for example, less than or equal to $100.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So for
once you get some big wins with those clients, if you want to keep them on for a long time, send them a bottle of Dom Perignon.
Yeah. And that's your cost of client acquisition, just
Right.
viewed as such, right?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, I'm pretty sure we made somebody's career and they won't know until like a year or two from now. Because somebody watching this is going to take the script that we just reviewed, send it out to 5 or 6 people, get their first gig, right? And
Hmm.
now you, Danny Velez, can do for someone else what Jason Horing did for you.
Exactly. And I
Which is,
guarantee you what you're saying is 100% true, man.
yeah,
Somebody watching this right now is going to take action on what we talked about, the framework of building a sales letter, how
yeah.
to go out and get these clients, and they're gonna start their fucking career and really change their life, bro.
Absolutely love it. Copywriting, by the way, is like I mentioned earlier, one of the few skill sets that like infinitely scalable. You wrote a sales letter once, it just ran.
And it's always relevant, bro. You could be a direct response copywriter that killed it in 1905, get a fucking time machine and kill it in 2021.
Yeah. And which is what the guy did with scientific advertising, because now I'm reading about how to risk reversal horse trading. Right?
Exactly.
Like,
That book was written in like 1894 and
still
shit.
works.
It's still
Still
relevant.
works.
Still relevant.
Nuts. Everyone's been an absolute pleasure. Danny Velez, we're going to bring this to an end. We do want to say again, number one, if you are interested in being entered into that little giveaway for people watching it live, hashtag VelezMyFace. And for everybody watching, if you are interested in seeing if we should do a masterclass on that sales letter, on that entire process, the VSL, the application page, the whole structure, on how Danny Velez added $1.35 million to an agency, how you could do it too. Hashtag masterclass, and then we'll just get a hand raise and see ultimately if we should take a next step. Danny, always a pleasure. Is there any last words, parting advice, questions, comments, concerns, anything like that?
Let's see here. You know, to be honest, just the only thing I will say is this. Number one is it was a pleasure spending time with with you, Jeff, and with the audience here. It always is our second interview. The other thing I'm gonna say is I just want to restate that I can't say enough. If you take what we went through today, there was nothing hidden from you. If
Yep.
you take these principles and you run with it and actually just do it, I promise you'll get your first copywriting client, and you will have paved an entire new career and skill set for yourself that can pay you, you know,
A lot of
forever.
effing money.
A lot of money forever and make you business's most valuable asset.
Absolutely love it. We'll bring this to an end. Danny, don't hang up. Everyone, Danny Velez. See you guys later.